record now. Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, continuing our journey through A Warning for Fair Women, containing the most tragical and lamentable murder of Master George Sanders of London, merchant, nice Shooters Hill, consented unto by his own wife, acted by Master Browne, Mistress Drury, and Trusty Roger, agents therein. Yeah, we do the spoilers straight away because odds on the original audience had a pretty damn good idea what this play was going to be about, as it is based on a true crime thing. So, yeah, it's no point pretending that we don't know where this is going. I've either just made a very cogent point or just really annoyed whoever's watching this video. So, without further ado, who's reading today? We're going from Act 2 into Act 3 and reading the personification of tragedy. When the feeling's gone, you can't go on. Plus, John and First Lord is...
Alan Scott. My postcode isn't BG.
Reading Barnes, Anne, and Second Lord is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast. You can call me Ray.
Reading Second Gent, Yeoman, Boy, and Third Lord today is...
Me, Briony Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Master Beane. I was going to say Mr. Beane, but I won't. I'll just say Master Beane is...
Sarah Blake, actor, writer and director in Germany.
Reading Sanders today is...
Hi, I'm American. I have...
Reading Gent, Drury, and Fourth Lord today is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Browne, and much of the time James is... muted.
Failing to find the mute button. The other Rachael, a Brit in Italy at the moment.
Reading Joan, Waterman, and Harry is...
Hello, Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
And reading Prentice and Roger is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm a teacher. I live in the northwestern United States.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and generally moving things forward. And boy, there's a big chunk of stage directions to read in a moment. Starting with Act 2, which has a bit of a chorusy activity from the tragedy and also a dumb show. So there's all sorts of exciting things coming up here. Oh, I wish I had more props. Enter Tragedy with a bowl of blood in her hand.
Till now you have but sitten to behold the fatal entrance to our bloody scene, and by gradations seen how we have grown into the mainstream of our tragedy. All we have done hath only been in words, but now we come unto the dismal act, and in these sable curtains shut we up the comic entrance to our direful play. This deadly banquet is prepared at hand, where ebon tapers are brought up from hell to lead Black Murther to his damned deed. The ugly screech owl and the night raven with flaggy wings and hideous croaking noise do beat the casements of this fatal house, while I do bring my dreadful furies forth to spread the table to this bloody feast.
And the furies come forth the while they cover.
Come forth and cover, for the time draws on. Dispatch, I say, for now I must employ ye to be the ushers to this damned train. Bring forth the banquet and that lustful wine, which in pale mazors made of dead men's skulls they shall carouse to their destruction. By this they've entered into this fatal door.
Here some strange, solemn music, like bells, is heard within.
Hark, how the ghastly, fearful chimes of night do ring them in, and with a doleful peal do fill the roof with sounds of tragedy. Dispatch, I say, and be their ushers in.
The Furies go to the door and meet them. First the Furies enter before leading them, dancing a soft dance to the solemn music. Next comes Lust before Browne, leading Mistress Sanders covered in a black veil. Chastity, all in white, pulling her back softly by the arm. Then Drury, thrusting away Chastity, Roger following. They march about, then sit to the table. The Furies fill wine. Lust drinks to Browne, he to Mistress Sanders, she pledgeth him. Lust embraceth her. She thrusteth chastity from her, chastity wrings her hands, and departs. Drury and Roger embrace one another. The Furies leap and embrace one another. Whilst they sit down, tragedy speaks.
Here is the mask unto this damned murder. The Furies first, the devil leads the dance. Next lawless lust conducteth cruel Browne. He doth seduce this poor deluded soul, attended by unspotted innocence, as yet unguilty of her husband's death. Next follows on that instrument of hell, that wicked Drury, the accursed fiend, that thrusts her forward to destruction. And last of all is Roger, Drury's man, a villain expert in all treachery, one conversant in all her damned drifts, and a base broker in this murderous act. Here they prepare them to these lustful feasts, and here they sit, all wicked murder's guests.
Tragedy standing to behold them a while, till the show be done, again turning to the people.
Thus sin prevails. She drinks that poisoned draught with which base thoughts henceforth infects her soul, and wins her free consent to this foul deed. Now blood and lust doth conquer and subdue, and chastity is quite abandoned. Here enters murder into all their hearts, and doth possess them with the hellish thirst of guiltless blood. Now will I wake my chime, and lay this charming rod upon their eyes, to make them sleep in their security.
And they sleep.
Thus sits this poor soul, innocent of late, among these devils at this damned feast, won and betrayed to their detested sin, and thus with blood their hands shall be embrued.
Murder sets down her blood and rubs their hands.
Thy hand shall both be touched, for they alone are the foul actors of this impious deed. And thine, for thou didst lay this plot, and thou didst work this damned witch device. Your hands are both as deep in blood as his. Only thou dipst a finger in the same, and here it is. Awake now when you will, for now is the time wherein to work your ill.
Here Browne starts up, draws his sword, and runs out.
Thus he is gone, while they all are secure, resolved to put these desperate thoughts in ewer. They follow him, and them will I attend, till I bring them all unto their end.
And exit. Well, that's quite a lavish spectacle. We can assume that some of what the text of tragedy is overlapping with the action rather than one following the other. There's an interesting sense of how the timing of that might work. I love the way that Anne only dips one finger in the blood, just a finger. Everybody else is the whole hands, and of course they all exit, and we have a scene following with Sanders and everyone not involved in this sequence because presumably everybody else has to wash. Clean the fake blood off really quickly. Any thoughts from the room about this spectacle? Tragedy's really now that they've got comedy and history off the stage, tragedy's really letting rip here. Lynn.
I hate to be negative Nelly, but that's kind of my nature. But this seems so heavy-handed and unnecessary. What purpose is this serving? Could it actually be kind of funny? Like, is it so much that like people would actually laugh?
I don't think that's his intention, but see what the rest of the room thinks. Eric, then Sarah, then Elizabeth.
I think it's kind of like B-movie level of horror. Where, I mean, you could have it like, Saw or I don't know, whatever. But you could also play it to like sort of over the topness with sort of I don't know, that kind of vibe. But what I was thinking is just that, like, sort of, you can sort of fondue with strawberry sauce.
I mean, I think it's a deliberate key change, because we had the previous act was all set up, and some of it was quite fun, and now it's tragedy turning up. No, we're going to have some murder now. Get ready for some murder. That's what you're here for. Sarah, then Elizabeth.
Yes, key change. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I mean, the first act, if you didn't know what was coming, you'd assume it was a city comedy. Cynical, yes, very cynical, because it's to do with like a man wanting to seduce a virtuous matron, and there's a hustle going on, there's a con going on to an extent. So very cynical comedy, but nevertheless a kind of urbane, witty, fairly sophisticated, cynical city comedy. And I think that's probably where the audience, I mean, probably not where the original audience would have been, because they would have known about the story, but I think that's probably where a modern audience would be by the end of Act 1. And I mean, this is kind of useful in a way, because it does kind of, tragedy comes back on. It's like, in case you forgot why we're all here, blood, lots of blood, just warning you. So yeah, key change.
Elizabeth, then Rachael, then Ray, and then Lynn.
I think it does set the scene. I've got the impression that the writer really wanted to put this dumb show in, and it was like, maybe someone might have read the text and said, you know what, maybe you could leave this dumb show out, and they're like, no way, this belongs in there. This is part of the play. And I like dumb shows anyway, and I like the atmosphere. Someone said in the chat that it's gone all Tim Burton. And that just made me laugh so much, because you do get a sense of it being a little bit heavy-handed. And I think I like that Eric was talking about like the horror B movie, like the Hammer House of horror movies. But I enjoyed the dumb show. I quite like dumb shows in general, and I like how detailed this one was. Because usually we just get like an overview, but this one we got in detail everything everyone is doing. And I also really like the washing of the hands in blood, because it's good. It takes us back to that Pontius Pilate idea of washing your hands off of blood. But this one, they're actually washing their hands in blood. So I did enjoy the dumb show. I'm not sure what it's meant to signify entirely. And I'm not sure how in keeping it is with the general theme of the play itself. But I did enjoy it.
Ray, and then Lynn. Then we'll move on. No, okay, Lynn.
Yeah, I just had to laugh really hard at Elizabeth's observation, because it does, and of course, coming from a writer, you would totally know. It's like, this solely sounds like a conversation between a writer and their editor, right? No, it's totally staying in. Do you really need it? No, it's totally staying in. It's just, yeah. One of my maxims as a theater practitioner has always been, you've got to trust the text. You've got to trust the material to do what you need it to do. You don't want to have like a little bum chugga bum every time someone tells a joke. You got to let the words do the work. And if you don't think the words do the work, then you need to pick a different text. And I feel like this author doesn't trust his own text. And that's kind of my problem with this.
I don't see that at all. I really don't. I mean, it's because there's more to come. So this isn't a one-off. I'm just throwing, and I'm sorry. I'm going to have to move us on, because we've got a lot of text to get through today. But hold on to those thoughts. Feed them into final thoughts at the end. Act 2, Scene 1. We got there in the end. Enter Sanders and one or two with him.
You see, sir, still I am a daily guest, but with so true friends as I hold yourself, I had rather be too rude than too precise.
Sir, this house is yours. You come but to your own. And what else I call mine is wholly yours. So much I do endear your love, sweet Master Sanders. Alight, ho, there.
Well, sir, at this time, I'll rather be unmannerly than ceremonious. I'll leave you, sir, to recommend my thanks unto your kind respective wife.
Sir, for your kind patience, she's much beholding to you. And I beseech you, remember me to Mistress Sanders.
Sir, I thank you for...
Sirrah, ho, who's within there?
Sir?
Light a torch there, and wait on Master Sanders home.
It shall not need, sir. It's light enough. Let it alone.
Nay, I pray ye, sir.
If faith, sir, at this time it shall not need. 'Tis very light. The streets are full of people, and I have some occasion by the way that may detain me.
Sir, I am sorry that you go alone. 'Tis somewhat late.
'Tis well, sir. God send you happy rest.
God bless you, sir. Passion of me. I had forgot one thing. I am glad I thought of it before we parted. Your patience, sir, a little?
And the gent, having presumably remembered he left the oven on, exits into the house. Here enters Browne, speaking in casting one side of his cloak under his arm. The gentleman re-enters while Master Sanders and he are in busy talk, one to the other. Browne steps to a corner.
This way he should come, and a fitter place the town affords not. 'Tis his nearest way, and 'tis so late he will not go about. Then stand close, George, and with a lucky arm sluice out his life, the hinderer of thy love. O sable knight, sit on the eye of heaven, that it discern not this black deed of darkness. My guilty soul, burnt with lust's hateful fire, must wade through blood to obtain my vile desire. Be then my coverture, thick ugly night. The light hates me, and I do hate the light.
Good night, sir.
Good night, good Master Sanders. Sir, I shall see you on the exchange tomorrow.
You shall, God willing, sir. Good night.
I hear him coming fair unto my stand. Murder and death sit on my fatal hand.
Enter a second gentleman with a man with a torch before. Browne draws to strike.
Who's there?
A friend.
Master Sanders, well met.
Good evening, gentle sir. So are you?
Where have you been so late, sir?
Plague upon't, a light and company. E'en as I was about to do the deed, see how the devil stumbles in the nick.
Sir, here at a friend of mine in Lombard Street at supper, where I promise you, our cheer and entertainment was so great that we have passed 1 hour. Believe me, sir, the evening's stolen away. I see 'tis later than I took it for.
Sirrah, turn there at the corner. Since 'tis late, I will go home with Master Sanders.
No, I pray you, sir, trouble not yourself. Sir, I beseech you.
Sir, pardon me. Sirrah, go on now, where we are. My way lies just with yours.
I am beholding to you.
And exit Sanders and various people. Browne remains, and he cometh out alone.
Except by miracle thou art delivered, as was never man. My sword unsheathed, and with the piercing steel ready to broach his bosom, and my purpose thwarted by some malignant envious star. Night, I could stab thee, I could stab myself. I am so mad that escaped my hands. How like a fatal comet did that light with this portentous vision fright mine eyes. A mask of devils walk along with thee, and thou the torchbearer unto them all. Thou fatal brand, never mayst thou be extinct till thou hast set that damned house on fire where he is lodged that brought thee to this place. Sanders, this hand doth hold that death alone, and bears the seal of thy destruction. Some other time shall serve till thou be dead. My fortunes yet are ne'er accomplished.
And exit Browne. Briefly pausing here just to go on the murder, murder, murder. Oh, somebody else has come in. So there is potentially comedy here, but also just threat. And it's that interesting question of tone. Where is the balance line? We've just had tragedy telling us blood, blood, murder, murder, death. So maybe we've got an indicator as to what the tone of this scene is. It's all about that anticipation of murder and not quite coming through as random extras are sauntering about. Sarah, then Eric.
Yeah, blood, blood, murder, murder, death. But then not. I don't know. I take your point that you, Lynn, that you made earlier. But I feel this is a playwright who trusts his text. I feel he's doing this on purpose. That he's just, playing with the audience, and it's quite entertaining.
Eric.
I was just going to say that it's very much sort of of your seat. If you don't know the plot, then it's just kind of like, oh god, is he gonna kill him now? Is he gonna kill him now? Is he gonna kill him now? And then no, he doesn't kill him now. But it's kind of like, yeah, it just feels very, you know, you can hear the dramatic violins following Sanders off into safety.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing about modern, recreations of, murders or things, in true crime documentaries or dramas of going, as an audience member, you might know that you know he's going to die, but you might not remember how or who killed him when. So there's that anticipation of, oh, death is going to occur, but maybe it won't. Briony.
Yeah, how else do you build that tension when you've already said who's going to die, who's going to kill them, how they're going to do it, and we have the motive in the last, in the first act. So what, you've got to build that suspension, the tension and suspense and drama somehow.
Eric, briefly, and then we'll move on.
Well, yeah, it is that thing of, sort of, I don't know, horror movies that are set in, an abandoned house, and you're like, don't go into that room, don't go into that room! And it's very much sort of like, what, you kind of go, as an audience member, why would you do that? Why would you go alone with no torch, with a battery, with the phone that has very little battery into a room that has, like, why would you do that? And then obviously, like, you said it in that context, it just, yeah.
Sorry, I need to move us forward, I'm afraid. Hold on to thoughts. Act 2, Scene 2, enter Master Barnes and John Beane, his man.
Must I go first to Greenwich, sir?
What else?
I cannot go by water, for it ebbs. The wind's at west, and both are strong against us.
My meaning is that you shall go by land and come by water. Though the tide be late, fail not to be at home again this night, with answer of those letters which ye have. This letter give to Master Cofferer. If he be not at court when ye come there, leave't at his chamber in any case. Pray Master Sanders to be here next week about the matter at St. Mary Cray.
Methinks, sir, under your correction, next week is ill appointed.
Why, I pray ye?
'Tis Easter week, and every holiday are sermons at the Spittal.
What of that?
Can Master Sanders then be spared to come?
Well said, John Fool. I hope at afternoon a pair of oars may brings him down to Woolwich. Tell him he must come down in any wise.
What shall I bring from London?
A fool's head.
A calf's head's better meat. 'Tis Maundy Thursday, sir, and every butcher now keeps open shop.
Well, get ye gone, and hie ye home. How now?
And because Beane stumbles twice.
What, art thou drunk? Canst thou not stand?
Yes, sir, I did but stumble. God send me good luck. I was not wont to stumble on plain ground.
Look better to your feet, then.
And exit Barnes.
Yes, forsooth. And yet I do not like it. At my setting forth, they say, it does betoken some mischance. I fear not drowning if the boat be good. There is no danger in so short a cut. Betwixt Blackwall and Woolwich is the worst. And if the watermen will watch the anchors, I'll watch the catches and the hoys myself. Well, I must go. Christ cross, God be my speed.
Enter old John and Joan, his maid.
Who comes there, a God's name? This woody way doth harbour many a false knave, they say.
False knaves, huh? Where be they? Let me see them at mass. As old as I am, I have little skill. I'll hamper a false knave yet, me a gin bill. Stand! Thief or true man?
Master, it is John Beane.
Jesu, John Beane! Why whither away by land? What makes you wander in this woody way? Walk ye to Greenwich or walk ye to Cray?
To Greenwich, Father John. Good morrow. Good morrow. Good morrow, Joan. Good morrow, sweet to thee.
1,000 good morrows, gentle John Beane. I am glad I met ye, for now I have my dream. I have been so troubled with ye all this night that I could not rest for sleeping and dreaming. Methought you were grown taller and fairer, and that you were in your shirt, and methought it should not be you. And yet it was you, and that you were all in white and went into a garden, and there were the umbrous sort of flowers that I could ever see. And methought you lay down upon a green bank, and I pinned gilliflowers in your ruff, and then methought your nose bled, and as I ran to my chest to fetch your handkerchief, methought I stumbled and so waked. What's do it betoken?
Nay, I cannot tell. But I like neither thy dream nor my own, for I was troubled with green meadows and bulls fighting and goring one another, and one of them, methought, ran at me, and I ran away, that I sweat in my sleep for fear.
Fear nothing, John Beane. Dreams are but fancies. I dreamed myself last night that I heard the bells a barking, as plain to our town of Woolwich, as if I had lain in the steeple, that I should be married, and to whom, trust thou? But to the fine gentlewoman of London that was at your master's last summer.
Oh, Mistress Saunders? I shall see her anon, for I have an errand to her husband. Shall I tell her ye dreamed of her?
Gods forbid! No, she'll laugh at me and call me old fool. Art thou going to London?
Yea, when I have been at the court at Greenwich. Whither go you and your maid Joan?
To stop a gap in my fence, and to drive home a cow and a calf that's in my close at Shooter's Hill Foot.
'Tis well done. Lass, I am merry since I met you two. Would your journey lay along with mine?
So would I with all my heart. John, pray you bestow a groat or sixpence of carnation ribbon to tie my smock sleeves. They flap about my hands too bad, and I'll give you your money again.
I will, i' faith. Will you have nothing, Father John?
No, God a mercy, son John. But I would thou hast my aquavito bottle to fill at the Black Bull by Battle Bridge.
So would I. Well, here our ways part. You must that way, and I this.
Why, John Beane, canst part with thy love without a kiss?
Ye say true, Father John. My business puts kissing out of my mind. Farewell, sweet Joan.
And he kisses Joan.
Farewell, sweet John. I pray ye have a care of yourself in my dream, and bless ye out of swaggerers' company, and walk not too late. My master and I will pray for you.
That we will, i' faith, John Beane.
God be with you both. I could e'en weep to see how kind they are unto me. There's a wench. Well, if I live, I'll make her amends.
And everyone exits. So, yes, a whole series of new characters who will return. Don't worry, that wasn't completely random. But it does feel... we forget we're actually quite early in the play. We actually went over not a lot of material last time. So it might feel like we should be a little further into the text than we normally are. But yeah, new characters doing interesting things. Any thoughts in the room on these new people? I mean, the audience at the time would have maybe initially thought, well, what's all this about? Until they heard the word Shooter's Hill. Someone's heading to Shooter's Hill. Ah, yes, we know that from the playbill. We saw a reference to that on the front of the play script. We know that that's significant, even if these people not necessarily people we know who they are. Sarah?
Yeah, there seemed to be an awful lot of stuff about where Beane was going and then where he was going next, and where he was coming from and what his business was. So I'm wondering was he an actual witness to the murder in the original, because all that stuff about where he'd been from and where he was going to, that would have presumably come out in court at the trial. So that would be info that the playwright had maybe, and that's why it's all there.
Possibly. We will definitely get some more data on that coming further on. But yeah, it's that's probably the logic of what's going on here. Or it may not. We shall see. But yes, we have noted that it's a bit left field for the play so far. But we have introduced some new people. Let's go back to some people we've already met. Act 2, Scene 3. Enter Browne, George Browne, and Drury. Boo hiss.
They speak your conscience. Was not strange fortune that at the instant when my sword was drawn and I had thought to have nailed him to a post, a light should come and so prevent my purpose?
It was so, Master Browne, but let it pass. Another time shall serve. Never give till you have quite removed him out your way.
And if I do, let me be held a coward, and no more worthy to obtain her bed than a foul negro to embrace a queen.
You need not quail for doubt of your reward. You know already she's won to this. What by my persuasion and your own suit, that you may have her company when you will, and she herself is thoroughly resolved. None but George Browne must be her second husband.
The hope of that makes me a nights to dream of nothing but the death of wretched Saunders, which I have vowed in secret to my soul shall not be long before that be determined. But I do marvel that our scout returns not, trusty Roger, whom we sent to dog him.
The knave's so careful, Master Browne, of you, as he will rather die than come again, before he find fit place to do the deed.
I am beholding both to you and him, and Mistress Drury. I'll requite your loves.
Enter Roger.
By the mass, see where the whoreson comes, puffing and blowing, almost out of breath.
Roger, how now? Where hast thou been all day?
Where have I been? Where I have had a jaunt able to tire a horse.
But dost thou bring any good news? Where I may strike the stroke shall make thyself and me amends for all?
That gather by the circumstance. First know that in the morning till 'twas 9 o'clock I watched at Sanders' door till he came forth. Then following him to Cornhill, where he stayed an hour talking in a merchant's warehouse. From thence he went directly to the Burse, and there he walked another hour at least, and I at his heels. By this it struck 11. Home then he comes to dinner. By the way, he chanced to meet a gentleman of the court with whom, as he was talking, I drew near, and at his parting from him heard him say that in the afternoon, without all fail, he would be with him at the court. This done, I watched him at his door till he had dined, followed him to Lion Quay, saw him take boat, and in a pair of oars as soon as he landed at Greenwich, where ever since I traced him to and fro with no less care than I had done before, till at the last I heard him call unto a waterman and bade he should be ready, for by 6 he meant to be at London back again. With that away came I to give you notice that as he lands at Lion Quay this evening, you might dispatch him and escape unseen.
Hodge, thou hast won my heart by this day's work.
Beshrew me, but he hath taken mighty pains.
Roger, come hither. There's for thee to drink, and one day I will do thee greater good.
I thank you, sir. Hodge is at your command.
Now, Mistress Drury, if you please, go home. 'Tis much upon the hour of his return.
Nay, I am sure he will be here straightway.
Well, I will leave you, for 'tis somewhat late. God speed your hand, and so, Master Browne, good night.
Mistress, I pray you, spare for me this once. I'll be so bold as stay with Master Browne.
Do. And Master Browne, if you prevail, come to my house. I'll have a bed for you.
And exit Drury.
You shall have knowledge if I chance to speed, but I'll not lodge in London for a while, until the rumour shall be somewhat past. Come, Roger, where is't best to take our standing?
Mary, at this corner in my mind.
I like it well. 'Tis dark and somewhat close, by reason that the houses stand so near. Beside, if he should land at Billingsgate, yet are we still betwixt his house and him.
You say well, Master Browne, 'tis so indeed.
Peace then. No more words for being spied.
Enter Anne Sanders and John Beane from the previous scene.
I marvel, John, thou sawest him not at court. He hath been there ever since 1 o'clock.
Indeed, Mistress Sanders, I heard not of him.
Pray God that Captain Browne hath not been moved by some ill motion to endanger him. I greatly fear it, he's so long away. But tell me, John, must thou needs home tonight?
Yes, of necessity, for so my master bade.
If it be possible, I prithee stay until my husband come.
I dare not, trust me, and I doubt that I have lost my tide already.
Nay, that's not so. Come, I'll bring thee to the quay. I hope we shall meet my husband by the way.
That should be Mistress Sanders by her tongue.
Is my love. How the dusky night is by her coming forth made sheen and bright. I'll know of her why she's abroad so late.
Take heed, Master Browne. See where Sanders comes.
Plague upon it, now I am prevented. She being by, how can I murder him?
Enter Sanders.
Your fare's but 18 pence. Here's half a crown.
Yeah, I thank your worship. God give you a good night.
Good night with all my heart.
Oh, here he is now. Husband, you're welcome home. Now, Jesu, man, that you will be so late upon the water.
My business, sweetheart, was such that I could not choose.
Here's Master Barnes, man, hath stayed all day to speak with you.
John Beane, welcome. How is it? How doth thy master and all our friends at Woolwich?
All in good health, sir, when I came thence.
And what's the news, John Beane?
My master, sir, requests you that upon Tuesday next you would take the pains to come down to Woolwich about the matter you were of.
Well, John, tomorrow thou shalt know my mind.
Nay, sir, I must to Woolwich by this tide.
What, tonight? There is no such haste, I hope.
Ooh, I think we've got a frozen bean.
Oh.
Looks like Beane has frozen. Give
Oh,
it
no.
a second. I don't think there's that much. Like, what line had we got to?
Yes,
yes.
truly, with your pardon.
Yes, truly, with your pardon, it must be so.
Well then, if John, you will be gone, commend me to your master and tell him without fail on Tuesday, sometime of the day I'll see him, and so good night.
Commend me likewise to thy master, John.
I thank you, Mistress Sanders. For my cheer, your commendation shall be delivered, and exeunt Sanders, Anne, and Beane.
I would thyself and he were both sent hence to do a message to the devil of hell for interrupting this my solemn vow. But questionless, some power or else prayer of some religious friend or other guards him, or else my sword's unfortunate. 'Tis so this metal was not made to kill a man.
Good Master Browne, fret not yourself so much. Have you forgot what the old proverb is? A third time pays for all. Do you not hear that he sent word to Master Barnes of Woolwich? He would be with him on Tuesday next. Twixt that and then lie you in wait for him. And though he have escaped your hand so oft, you may be sure to pay him home at last.
Fury had almost made me pass myself. 'Tis well remembered. Hodge, it so shall be. Some place will I pick out as he does pass, either in going in or in coming back, to end his hateful life. Come, let's away, and at thy mistress' house we'll spend this night in consultation how it may be wrought.
And they exit. Act 2 of A Warning for Fair Women, otherwise subtitled Delayed Gratification. It's like, we know the murder's coming. We know it's coming. Ah, damn it, the wife turned up. It's just witnesses. There's always witnesses. Someone will be walking their dog by in a moment. It's awful. Rachael.
I was just going to say, I mean, I assume what's happening here, or part of what's happening, is he's been given all sorts of opportunities to change his mind, to see the error of his ways, and he's failing to take those opportunities.
Yeah, he's a lot more into this murdering thing than he was in Act 1. I mean, I don't know how into the murdering thing he was in Act 1, actually. It's like it all sort of came out a bit out of the blue. I don't know how much of a reaction we got of the whole murdery aspect of it all. Elizabeth.
Yeah, Rachael had a monologue which was so good. It was one that had night I could stab thee, I could stab myself. And I just thought this play is just oozing with atmosphere. And it's really like kind of teasing the audience to like that this murder is gonna come.
Browne gets all these poetic-y lines. I mean, he got that earlier, you know, there's his tormented poetic soul, and he's applying it to the murder plot as well. Can't help it. He just speaks in pure poetry. So yes, we've also got Beane has returned and seems to be part of this this web of not a completely random character. So it's starting to tie together. Lynn.
No,
you weren't.
I'm just fidgeting.
Just fidgeting. Any other thoughts? Yes, obviously the eek line there in the middle where we all just went, ooh, yeah, not a great line from Browne there. Yeah, just that can quietly disappear.
Is that the Negro line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just comes out of nowhere.
Early modern bingo.
Yeah, Eric, then Dan, then Rachael.
Yeah, it kind of, I don't know, there was a part going, it's just hard to take this murder seriously just because, like, for one thing, his first attempt fails because, you know, oh my God, someone walked him home. Second attempt fails because the wife is there, but also, like, he basically has someone to do he outsources the stalking part to someone else. It just kind of, it fails a bit, but it's kind of funny.
I think it's sensible. You know, you don't want to be up all night, following or out all day following people. It's tiring. You know, you want, especially when you've got to be, rested, ready for the actual stabby bit. Dan.
About the questionable line, I do think that they're just like you do in films even today, and in theater as well. It does signpost immediately for the audience, maybe then as well. Who knows? That this is not somebody you're going to be rooting for there. And especially for this type of play where the lines are clearly delineated seeming to be clearly delineated as to whom you should support and who you shouldn't. I wouldn't mind that necessarily for that reason.
Rachael.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Is it okay in the mouth of an evil character, and then there can be some reaction to it that sort of, I don't know. But it's awful to hear it coming out of your own mouth.
Yeah, especially when we just hadn't noticed that line was there, so I couldn't even flag up that. Yay, there's that line coming. Apologies, everyone. Anyway, we will move into Act 3. Let us dive deeper into the tragedy of it all, because we have another dumb show coming up. Act 3 dumb show. Enter tragedy.
Twice, as you see, this sad, distressed man, the only mark whereat fell murder shot, just in the loose of envious eager death, by accident strange and miraculous, escaped the arrow aimed at his heart. Suppose him on the water now, for Woolwich, for secret business with his bosom friend. From thence, as fatal destiny conducts him, to Mary Cray, by some occasion called, which by false Drury's means made known to Browne, lust, gain, and murder spurred this villain on, still to pursue this unsuspecting soul. And now the dreadful hour of death is come, the dismal morning when the destinies do shear the labouring vital thread of life, when as the lamb left in the woods of Kent, unto this ravenous wolf become a prey, now of his death the general intent, thus tragedy doth to your eyes present.
The music playing enters lust for a second time, bringing forth Browne and Roger at one end, Mistress Sanders and Mistress Drury at the other, they offering cheerfully to meet and embrace. Suddenly riseth up a great tree between them, whereat amazedly they step back. Whereupon Lust bringeth an axe to Mistress Sanders, showing signs that she should cut it down, which she refuseth, albeit Mistress Drury offers to help her. Then Lust brings the axe to Browne, and shows the like signs to him as before, whereupon he roughly and suddenly hews down the tree, and they run together and embrace. With that enters Chastity with her hair dishevelled, and taking Mistress Shanders by the hand, brings her to her husband's picture hanging on the wall, and pointing to the tree, seems to tell her that the tree is so the tree so rashly cut down, that he is the tree so rashly cut down. Whereupon she, wringing her hands, in tears departs. Browne, Drury, Roger, and Lust, whispering, he draws his sword, and Roger follows him. Tragedy expressing that now he goes to act the deed.
Thus leads together this adulterous route. But as you see, I hindered thus before. They could attain unto their foul desires. The tree springs up, whose body, whilst it stands, still keeps them back when they would fain embrace. Whereat they start, for fury evermore is full replete with fear and envy. Lust giveth her the axe to cut it down, to rid her husband whom it represents, in which this damned woman would assist her. But though by them seduced to consent, and had a finger in her husband's blood, could not be won to murder him herself. Lust brings the axe to Browne, who suddenly doth give the fatal stroke unto the tree, which being done, they then embrace together. The act performed, now Chastity appears, and pointing to the picture and the tree, unto her guilty conscience shows her husband, even so cut off by that vile murderer Browne. She wrings her hands, repenting of the fact, touched with remorse, but now it is too late. What's here expressed, an act is to be done. The sword is drawn, the murderer forth doth run. Lust leads him on, he follows him with speed, the only actor in this damned deed.
Exit Tragedy, presumably dragging a tree. There's all sorts of interesting staging questions about this these particular dumb shows. We've had some tree action before. We've had trees chopped down before, not necessarily by a playhouse company. But I want to just ask, on in the spirit of copulation, the various embracings that are going on here, and the sort of suggestion that that perhaps more people are at it. Is there stuff going on between because Roger and Drury embrace, Browne and Drury have a sort of Mark versus young and the widow nurse to it, and just wondering, are more people at it than we? I'm thinking, or am I just having a dirty mind? I don't know.
Both is a choice.
Yeah. Other thoughts are available. You don't have to respond to that. I'm just thinking out loud. Alan.
I must admit, I'm almost hearing Tragedy as sort of Edgar Lustgarten or the narrator at a Rocky Horror Picture Show. A voice off who's not connected with the mainline action, and in very sort of sententious tones, which I'm unable to replicate.
Yes, who is Tragedy? Who is she? And how good a dancer is Lust? I'm quite interested in how do you personify Lust, and how much clothing do you give Lust, and how does that portray Eric?
I was just going to say that I like how Tragedy comes in at the beginning of this act, sort of like he failed the previous two times, but he's going to murder him. Honest, like sort of. Just stick around, don't go away for the commercials. We'll be back after this commercial break, kind of thing.
Murder's definitely coming. Murder's definitely coming, and before the murder comes, we're going to personify it with a tree. Some good tree action there. Okay, Elizabeth.
I was just going to second that. You made a very good point about how they would go about staging this particular dumb show. The last one was a little bit easier to follow, but this one I was just a bit concerned, like the chopping of the tree in the middle of the stage, people dragging it off, the picture hanging on the wall. I think there's a lot going on in this dumb show that would be very picky, very persnickety to kind of portray on stage. I think you might have to pare it down a bit. And then I didn't get the fact that the painting was supposed to be the tree. So that it was supposed to be the same person that was cut down. I thought that might be difficult to bring across to the audience as well.
I thought it was actually that was sort of over-egging it. It was like sort of going, if you didn't get what the tree chopping down meant earlier, folks, here's a picture. It's like we've been there before.
Dorian Gray.
Okay, any other thoughts in the room before we go into some action? There's a murder definitely coming any minute now. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Browne reading a letter and Roger.
Did I but waver or were unresolved, these lines were able to encourage me. Sweet Nan, I kiss thy name, and for thy sake, what coward would not venture more than this? Kill him? Yeah, were his life 10,000 lives. Not any spark or cinder of the same should be unquenched in blood at thy request. Roger, thou art assured he'll come this way.
Assured, sir. Why, I heard him say so. For having lodged at Woolwich all last night, as soon as day appeared, I got me up and watched aloof at Master Barnes' door till he and Master Sanders both came forth.
Till both came forth? What, are they both together?
No, sir. Master Barnes himself went back again and left his man to bear him company. John Beane, you know him. He that was at London when you laid wait for him at Billingsgate.
Is it that stripling? Well, no more ado. Roger, go thou unto the hedge corner at the hill foot. There stand, and cast thine eye toward Greenwich Park. See if Blackheath be clear, lest by some passenger we be descried.
Shall ye not need my help, sir? There are twain.
No, were they 10, mine arm is strong enough, even of itself to buckle with them all. And ere George Saunders shall escape me now, I will not reck what massacre I make.
Well, sir, I'll go and watch, and when I see anybody coming, I'll whistle to you.
Do so, I prithee. I would be alone. My thoughts are studious and unsociable, and so's my body till this deed be done. Let me see, what time of day is now? It cannot be imagined by the sun, for why, I have not seen it shine today. Yet as I gather by my coming forth, being then 6, it cannot now be less than half an hour past 7. The air is gloomy. No matter, darkness best fits my intent. Here will I walk, and after shroud myself within those bushes, when I see them come.
Enter Master Sanders and John Beane.
John Beane, this is the right way, is it not?
Aye, sir, would to God it were past this wood.
Why art thou afraid? See, yonder is company.
They have espied me. I will slip aside.
God, sir, I am heavy at the heart. Good Master Sanders, let's return back to Woolwich. Methinks I go this way against my will.
Why so, I prithee?
Truly, I do not like the man we saw. He slipped so soon away behind the bushes.
Trust me, John, nor I, but yet, God willing, we will keep our way.
Oh, I pray you, sir, let us go back again. I do remember now, a dream was told me, that might have the world, I cannot choose, tremble every joint to think upon it.
But we are men. Let us not be so faint-hearted as to affright ourselves with visions. Come on, in God's name.
Browne steps out and strikes at John Beane's heels.
Oh, we are undone.
What seek you, sir?
Thy blood, which I will have.
Oh, take my money and preserve my life.
It is not millions that can ransom thee, nor this base drudge, for both of you must die.
Hear me a word, you are a gentleman. Still soil not your hands with blood of innocence.
Thou speakest in vain.
Then God forgive my sin. Have mercy on me and upon thee too, the bloody author of my timeless death.
Now will I dip my handkerchief in his blood and send it as a token to my love. Look how many wounds my hand hath given him, so many holes I'll make within this cloth.
Jesu, receive my soul into thy hands.
And Sanders dies.
What sound was that? It was not he that spake. The breath is vanished from his nostrils. Was it the other? No, his wounds are such as he is likewise past the use of speech. Who was it then that thundered in mine ears the name of Jesu? Doubtless 'twas my conscience, and I am damned for this unhallowed deed. O sin, how hast thou blinded me till now, promising me security and rest, but givest me dreadful agony of soul. What shall I do, or whither shall I fly? The very bushes will discover me. See how their wounds do gape under the skies, calling for vengeance.
Enter Roger.
How now, Master Browne? What have you done? Why so? Let's away, for I have spied some riding o'er the heath, some half a dozen in a company.
Away to London thou, I'll to the court, and show myself, and after follow thee. Give this to Mistress Sanders.
Gives him the handkerchief.
Bid her read upon this bloody handkerchief the thing as I did promise, and have now performed. But were it, Roger, to be done again, I would not do it for kingdom's gain.
Tut, faint not now. Come, let us haste away.
Oh, I must fear whatever thou dost say. My shadow, if naught else, will me betray.
Exeunt. Beane, left wounded and for dead, stirs and creeps.
Dare I look up, for fear he yet be near that thus hath morted me? Yea, the coast is clear. For all these deadly wounds, yet lives my heart. Alack, how loth poor life is from my limbs to part. Ah, I cannot go. Ah, no, I cannot stand. Oh God, that some good body were near at hand to help me home to Woolwich ere I die. To creep that wayward, whilst I live I'll try. Oh, could I crawl but from this cursed wood before I drown myself in my own blood.
Enter old John and Joan.
Out by my father's saddle, Joan. I think we are bewitched. A beast we never want to break out so often. Sure as death the harlotries are bespoken, but it is that heifer with the white back that leads them all a-gadding. Good luck, taker.
Is it not dismal day, master? Did ye look in the almanac? If it be not, then 'tis either long of the branded cow that was ne'er well in her wits since the butcher brought her calf, or long of my dream, or of my nose bleeding this morning. For as I was washing my hands, my nose bled 3 drops. Then I thought of John Beane. God be with him. For I dreamed he was married, and that our white calf was killed for his wedding dinner. God bless them both, for I love them both well.
Beane creeps.
Marry, amen. I tell thee, my heart is heavy. God send me good luck. My eyes dazzle, and I could weep. Lord bless us! What sight is this? Look, Joan, and cross thyself.
Master, look in my purse for a piece of ginger. I shall swoon. Cut my face and cover my face. I die else. It's John Beane, killed, cut, slain. Master, and yet ye be a man. Help!
John Beane? No, God forbid. Alack, good John, how came ye in this piteous plight? Speak, good John. Nay, groan not, speak. Who has done this deed? Thou hast not fordone thyself, hast thou?
Oh no, no.
Oh no, he need not have done that. For God knows I loved him as dearly as he loved me. Speak, John, who did it?
One in a white doublet and blue breeches. He has slain another 2 not far off. Oh, stop my wounds if you can.
Joan, take my napkin and thy apron and bind up his wounds. And cows go where they will till we have carried him home.
Woe worth him, John, that did this dismal deed. Heartbreak be his mirth, and hanging be his meed.
Oh, well a day. See where another lies. A handsome, comely, ancient gentleman. What an age live we in, when men have no mercy of men more than of dogs, bloodier than beasts. This is the deed of some swaggering, swearing, drunken, desperate dick. Call we them cavaliers? Lest they be cannibals that have the stab readier in their hands than a penny in their purse. Shame's death be their share. Joan, hast thou done? Come, lend me a hand to lay this good man in some bush, from birds and from beasts, till we carry home John Beane to his masters, and raise all Woolwich to fetch home this man, and make search. Lift there, Joan. So.
And they carry out Saunders.
Lord, comfort my soul. My body is past cure.
Now let's take up John Beane. Softly, Joan. Softly.
John, little thought I to have carried thee thus within this week, but my hope is aslope. My joy is laid to sleep.
And they exit. Well, that element of earlier of going, who are these random people? They're not important. No, they're all important. Who here thought Beane was marked for death? Oh, Sarah thought he was a goner, did you?
Well, no. When when at the end there, I thought he was a goner. Yeah, I really didn't expect him. I thought he'd been killed. Yeah.
I mean, Pride, when you first met him, did anyone here was going, he's going to be murdered?
Oh, no. No, I didn't. No.
But, he's the real innocent here, isn't he? It's such a shame. Just fascinating things that Browne just can't stop poeticizing, can he? He just can't stop it. Even, at the moment Saunders says, Jesus received my soul, and he mishears it and go, oh, he couldn't have said it. Maybe this no, it's definitely Saunders, mate. It's fine. You're just feeling guilty. I like the way Browne immediately goes off to try and sort himself an alibi. I'm just going to make sure I'm seen publicly somewhere else. That's cool. And it's always nice when the dying person, when asked who did this, immediately gives a clear and concise description. It's not like it was the or says something cryptic that isn't very helpful. No, straightforward. It was white doublet and blue breeches. Otherwise, it was dark. Briony.
So Browne's got enough sense to immediately go off and get himself an alibi, but not to wear something that isn't instantly recognisable by a description.
Well,
we don't
know.
Wear plain colours. Don't wear your white trousers and your was it blue trousers and your white top. Don't do it. Wear something boring that everybody wears.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Browne thought he was dead and that he killed the witnesses. But, good point. Make sure you've got your murder kit arranged separately and a change of clothes you can get in straight away. But, they hadn't had as many crime dramas then to have, learnt all of those things. Sarah?
I thought it was rather wonderful. Joan's last line, I little thought I have to carry thee thus within this week. She's literally just spent the last, pretty much every speech she's had in the play, like foreshadowing doom. And, I've had all these forebodings and all this weird stuff has happened and I'm sure something really bad has happened. And then when, of course, it does happen, it then kind of, tells the lie on all of that because when she's faced with the reality of it, it's just so. I thought that was quite nicely done.
Yes, and of course they're only there not because of the portents. It's just because the cow escaped. So all the portents didn't necessarily lead to anything, even though the portents were all pointing, saying bad things are coming. Yeah, it's a question of how comedic do we make Beane earlier? How what do we do with it? Because how awful do we make this? Because his death is pretty grim. He's crawling across the stage because his legs don't work because he took out his legs. It's brutal. This sequence, it's really brutal. Sarah.
I would be tempted to make him comic because it's a bit like I have the same argument with Hieronymo in A Spanish Tragedy. It's like the more fun he is early on, the more shocking and horrible it suddenly becomes when he's maimed in this way. Although, I mean, is he actually dead? I mean, he wasn't dead when.
Who knows?
when they left. Has he actually been killed?
Don't know.
Is he
There's no
coming
stage
back?
direction saying he dies. So, let's
No.
discover that. Eric,
It might be
then
okay.
Dan.
My question is, at which point in, like, because obviously there's no stage direction for stabs him, but
No.
there's kind of he goes, Browne goes, look how many wounds my hand hath given him, so many holes I'll make within this cloth, and then obviously Saunders dies. But so, like, does that happen between, like, sort of thou speakest in vain and now will I dip my kerchief in his blood, or what? Like, sort of while he's speaking, then God forgive my sin, and stab. Like, sort of, it's interesting where the where you would place that in a production.
Yeah, I think there is a area of choice, and also how many stab wounds there are. So yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. We don't know precisely when the wounds happen. There is an area of ambiguity as to precisely where the first stabbing occurs. Dan.
Just wanted to say I agree with Sarah. I'm always a fan, especially of these types of moralities, which this really true story morality plays, to ratchet up the humor as much as possible with the character with these types of characters, because it brings the tragedy into much starker light when finally such and such person is actually murdered.
Okay, we need to move on to Act 3, Scene 2. I need to hand out James to somebody new. Sanders, you've just been murdered.
I was going to say, I just got murdered. It's fine.
Could you read James for this scene coming up, please? Act 3, Scene 2. Enter a yeoman of the buttery, Browne and Master James.
Welcome, Master Browne. What is your drink, ale or beer?
Marry ale, and if you please. You see, sir, I am bold to trouble you.
No trouble, sir, at all. The Queen, our mistress, allows this bounty to all corners, to all comers, much more to gentlemen of your sort. Some ale there, ho!
Into one with a jack and a quart dish.
Here, Master Browne, thus much to your health.
I thank you, sir. Nay, prithee, fill my cup. Here, Master James, to you with all my heart. How say you now, sir? Was I not a dry?
Believe me, yes. Wilt please ye mend your draught?
No more, sir, in this heat. It is not good.
It seems, Master Browne, that you have gone apace. Came you from London that you made such haste? But soft, what have I spied? Your hose is bloody.
How bloody? Where? Good sooth, 'tis so indeed.
It seems it is but newly done.
No more it is, and now I do remember how it came. Myself and some 2 or 3 gentlemen more, crossing the field this morning here from Eltham, chanced by the way to start a brace of hares, one of the which we killed, the other scaped, and pulling forth the garbage this befell. But 'tis no matter, it will out again.
Yes, there's no doubt. With a little soap and water.
I had been with you at that sport.
I would you had, sir. 'Twas good sport indeed. Now, afore God, this blood was ill espied, but my excuse, I hope, will serve the turn. Gentlemen, I must to London this forenoon, about some earnest business doth concern me. Thanks for my ale and your good companies.
Adieu, good Master Browne.
Farewell unto you both.
And exit Browne.
An honest proper gentleman as he lives. God be with you, sir. I'll up into the presence.
You're welcome, Master James. God be with you, sir.
And they exit. Hello, good innkeep. I'm here to sort out an alibi. Do ignore the sweatiness on my brows and the fact that I'm covered in blood. God, he's not... God, yeah, Alan.
I don't think the term innkeep is quite the right one. I think you're at the royal court. This is the butler of the royal court, of the Queen's court in particular.
Yes, I was just doing a funny there. But yes, you're absolutely right. It's the court where he's said he's making himself his presence known, but he's really not very good at this murdering lark, is he? I mean, I don't, even if you don't know much about murder, getting blood all over you. So that's a thing to predict when you're doing stabby things. Briony.
I particularly love the 2 lines after he's exited. Wow, what a nice bloke he is. Have a good day. It's just so, surely they must know that there is that humorous edge to all of this, the playwright, because I'm loving it.
Yeah. You can tell they're the ones who get interviewed after he's arraigned, going, well, he's had such an honest, open face. I never would have thought of it. You know, he was always nice to his mum, etc. So, hey, let's move on. Act 3, Scene 3. Enter Anne Sanders, Anne Drury, and Roger. Drury having the bloody handkerchief in her hand.
Oh, show not me that ensign of despair, but hide it, burn it, bury it in the earth. It is a calendar of bloody letters, containing his and yours and all our shames.
Good Mistress Sanders, be not so outrageous.
What tell you me? Is not my husband slain? Are not we guilty of his cruel death? My dear husband, I will follow thee. Give me a knife, a sword, or anything, wherewith I may do justice on myself. Justice for murder, justice for the death of my dear husband, my betrothed love.
These exclamations will bewray us all. Good Mistress Sanders, peace.
I pray you peace. Your servants or some neighbours else will hear.
Shall I fear more my servants or the world than God himself? He heard our treachery and saw our complot and conspiracy, our heinous sins, and our heinous sin cries in the ears of him louder than we can cry upon the earth. A woman's sin, a wife's inconstancy. God, that I was born to be so vile, so monstrous and prodigious for my lust. Fie on this pride of mine, this pampered flesh. I will revenge on these enticing eyes and tear them out for being amorous. Oh, Saunders, my dear husband, give me leave. Why do you hold me? Are not my deeds ugly? Let then my faults be written in my face.
Oh, do not offer violence to yourself.
Have I not done so already? Is not the better part of me by me misdone? My husband, is he not slain? Is he not dead? But since you labor to prevent my grief, I'll hide me in some closet of my house, and there weep out mine eyes, or pine to death, that have untimely stopped my husband's breath.
And exit Anne.
What shall we do, Roger? Go thou and watch for Master Browne's arrival from the court, and bring him hither. Happily his presence will be a means to drive her from this passion. In the mean space I will go after her, and do the best I can to comfort her.
I will. Take heed she do not kill herself.
For God's sake, haste thee, and be circumspect.
And they exit. Roger, once again, giving useful advice that perhaps nobody really needed there. Yeah, it's an interesting question of how complicit Anne is in this murder, because, she was told about the need to die in the previous act, and now we haven't seen her since. Has she done any of the planning? How real was this murder to her, beyond being told that maybe it was a good idea? So it's an interesting question as to, is she sort of being drawn into this more after the fact than before it? Lynn?
Yes, it's pretty ambiguous. In a previous scene, Browne comes in with a letter and says something about he indicates that Anne has consented to their affair, at least. It's like, oh, she loves me now, basically. And so she's complicit in that she has agreed to accept Browne's courtship. But we don't know. He doesn't say she's on board with my killing him. Yeah, so is she just guilty because she acknowledged and accepted Browne's desire for her, or did she actually say, yes, let's get rid of him so you and I can get married? We don't know.
Yeah, we haven't had a gift wrapped knife scent or anything. Sarah.
She only had one finger dipped in blood. I mean, yeah, I guess the playwright's trying to lead the audience there, but it is ambiguous.
Okay, let's see if the play resolves any more ambiguities. We're going to run the last couple of scenes into each other before we close the session. Act 3, Scene 4. Enter Sanders' young son and another boy, Harry, coming from school.
Come, Harry, shall we play a game?
What?
Wyatt, cross and pile.
You have no counters.
Yes, but I have as many as you.
I'll drop with you, and he that has most, take all.
No, sir, if you'll play a game, 'tis not yet 12 by half an hour. I'll set you like a gamester.
Go to. Where shall we play?
Here at our door.
What? And if your father find us?
No, he's at Woolwich and will not come home tonight.
Set me then, and here's a good.
Enter Browne and Roger.
Is she so out of patience as thou sayest?
Wonderful, sir. I have not seen the like.
What does she mean by that? Nay, what mean I to ask the question? Has she not good cause? Oh yes, and we have every one of us just cause to hate and be at variance with ourselves. But come, I long to see her.
He spies the boy.
How now, Captain? Why stop you on the sudden? Why go you not? What makes you look so ghastly towards the house?
Is not the foremost of those pretty boys one of George Saunders' sons?
Yes, 'tis his youngest.
Both youngest and eldest are now made fatherless by my unlucky hand. I prithee go and take him from the door. The sight of him strikes such a terror to my guilty conscience, as I have not the heart to look that way, nor stir my foot until he be removed. Methinks in him I see his father's wounds, fresh bleeding in my sight. Nay, he doth stand like to an angel with a fiery sword to bar mine entrance at that fatal door. I prithee step and take him quickly hence.
Away, my pretty boy, your master comes, and you'll be taken playing in the street. What? At unlawful games? Away, be gone. 'Tis dinner time, young Sanders. You'll be yerked. Your mother looks for you before this time.
Gaffer, if you'll not tell my master of me, I'll give you this new silk point.
Go to, I will not.
Nor of me, and there's 2 counters. I have one no more.
Of neither of you, so you will be gone.
God be with you, you shall see me no more.
Nor me. I mean, playing at the store.
And exeunt boys.
Now, Captain, if you please, you may come forward. But see where Mistress Saunders and my mistress are coming forth to meet you on the way.
And enter Anne Saunders and Anne Drury.
See where Master Browne is. In him take comfort, and learn to temper your excessive grief.
Bid me feed on poison and be fat, or look upon the basilisk and live, or surfeit daily and be still in health, or leap into the ocean and not be drowned. All these are even possible as this, that I should be recomforted by him that is the author of my whole lament.
Why, Mistress Anne, I love you dearly, and but for your incomparable beauty, my soul had never dreamt of Saunders' death. Then give me that which now I do deserve, yourself, your love, and I will be to you a husband so devout as none more just or more affectionate shall tread this earth.
If you can crave it of me with a tongue that hath not been profaned with wicked vows, or think it in a heart did never harbor pretense of murder, or put forth a hand does not contaminate with shedding blood, then will I willingly grant your request. But oh, your hand, your heart, your tongue, and I are all presenters of my misery.
Talk not of that, but let us study now how we may salve it and conceal the fact.
Mountains will not suffice to cover it. Cimmerian darkness cannot shadow it, nor any policy wit hath in store cloak it so cunningly. But at the last, if nothing else, it will the very stones that lie within the streets cry out for vengeance and point at us to be the murderers.
And they exit. Act 3, Scene 5. Enter lots of people. There may be some clashes here. Enter 3 lords, Master James, and the 2 messengers with their boxes. First Lord reading a letter.
Oh, God, my lords, a very bloody act.
Yea, and committed in eye of court, audaciously, as who should say he durst attempt a murder in despite of law.
Pray, let's see your letter, good my lord.
And he takes and reads the letter.
10 wounds at least, and deadly every wound, and yet he lives and tells marks of the man, even at the edge of Shooter's Hill, so near.
We shall not need to send these messengers, for hue and cry may take the murderers.
Enter a 4th lord with a waterman and a page.
Nay, sirrah, you shall tell this tale again, before the lords. Come on, my lords, what's news?
Bad news, my lord. A cruel murder's done near Shooter's Hill, and here's a letter come from Woolwich, from a gentleman of worth, noting the manner and the marks of him, by likelihood, that did the impious deed.
'Tis noised at London that a merchant slain, one Master Sanders, dwelling near Thames Street, and that George Browne, a man whom we all know, is vehemently suspected for the fact, and fled upon it. And this same Waterman that brought me down says he rode him up, and that his hose were bloody, which he hid still with his hat, sitting barehead in the boat, and sighed and stared as one that was afraid. How sayest thou, sirrah? Was it not so he did?
Yeah, please your lordship, so was.
What did he wear?
A doublet of white satin and a large pair of breeches of blue silk.
Was he so suited when you drank with him, here in the buttery?
Yeah, my lord, he was.
And his hose bloody?
Just as he affirms.
Confer the marks the wounded fellow tells with these reports.
The man that did the deed was fair and fat, his doublet of white silk, his hose of blue. I'm sorry for George Browne. 'Twas he, my lords.
The more accursed man. Get warrants drawn, and messengers attend. Call all your fellows, ride out every way. Post to the ports, give charge that no man pass without our warrant. One take boat to London, command the sheriffs make wise and speedy search. Decipher him by all the marks you can. Let blood be paid with blood in any man.
We were to blame else. Come, my lords, let's in, to sign our warrants and to send them out.
They exit. Act 3, Scene 6. Enter Roger and Drury. Drury and Roger with a bag.
Roger, canst thou get but £20 of all the plate that thou hadst from us both? Mine own's worth 20. What hadst thou of her?
2 bowls and spoons, I know not what myself. 'Tis a note, and I could get no more but £20.
Alas, 'twill do no good, and he must thence. If he be ta'en, he dies. On his escape, thou knowest, our safety lies.
That's true. Alas, what will you have me do?
Run to Nan Sanders, bid her make some shift. Try all her friends to help at this dead lift. For all the money that she ran devise, and send by thee with all the haste she may. Tell her we die if Browne make any stay.
I will.
Exit Roger.
Thou wilt. Alas, that ere this dismal deed was brought to pass. But now 'tis done. We must prevent the worst.
Enter Browne.
And here comes he that makes us all accursed. How now, George Browne?
Nan Drury, now undone by that thou hast made me do.
I make you do it. Your own love made you do it.
Well done it is. What shall we say? What shall we now say to it? Search is made for me. Be I ta'en, I die. And there are other as far in as I. I must be on sea, money have I none, nor dare I look for any of mine own.
Here's £20 I borrowed of my plate, and to your mistress I have sent for more.
And enter Roger.
By Hodge, my man. Now, Roger, hast thou sped?
Yea, of £6, 'tis all she can make. She prays you take it in worth and be gone. She hears the sheriffs will be there anon. And at our house, 1,000 commendations she sends to you, praying you shift for yourself.
Even as I may. Roger, farewell to thee. If I were richer, then thou shouldst go with me, but poverty parts company. Farewell, Nan. Commend me to thy mistress if you can.
Step thither yourself. I dare not come there. I'll keep my house closed, for I am in fear.
God be with you, good captain.
Farewell, gentle Hodge. O Master Saunders, wert thou now alive, all London's wealth thy death should not contrive. This heat of love and hasty climbing breeds. God bless all honest, tall men from such deeds.
And exit. So, lots of little scenes there doing lots of business, but I think what's really heartening here is that the law is really efficient. It's like they've just gone, right, well, he did it. It's basically, we've got all the evidence lined up here. He's immediately suspected. George is so bad at this. He's as bad at this as he is at wooing Anne in the first place. I mean, he's just patently just bad at stuff. And yeah, he's they've got the description, they've got 2 witnesses, there's a boatman as well. Did I read this right, that Beane's still alive even though he had 10 wounds?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get the impression that, I thought they just took his legs out and forgot about it, but no, the repeated stabbings of Beane. Wow. So yeah. So much stuff going on there. Following on from this little scene with the boy and Harry, the boy continuing to be really good at bargaining. I really like the boy's still quite well, and that Browne comes on and has this step of conscience of going, oh God, I've just killed this child's father, and but he still tries to his romantic overtures to Anne, which go down like a plate of cold sick, and yeah. So much stuff. Thoughts in the room? Who wants to dive in? Eric.
Yeah, it's interesting how that shift happens. Like, sort of, yes, he's murdered him, and now he's feeling guilty, and then like suddenly he's kind of confronted with this child who's basically, who's basically fatherless because of him. And also, I was very impressed by sort of the law being so efficient on top of everything. It's just impressive.
Well, to be fair, they'd just have to be really crap not to catch this guy, because he's leaving clues everywhere. I mean, Ray.
I was gonna say there's some tension in that scene with the 2 children that you don't know, like if he's going to do something to them or also the continuation of his spouting of poetry, even though we know he from the beginning that he's going to do violence, and even after we've seen this terrible violence that he's enacted, there's some sort of serial killer like Charles Manson vibes. That there's something about him that I think if a production was to put this on and an actor was to do something with it, that there should be something off-puttingly charming about him, that there is some sort of weird violent mask or something with it, because the poetry itself is appealing. If it was another character saying it, not doing these acts, I think that would be a wonderful character. And I think there's some push and pull here, but the more he spouts this beautiful poetry now, the more it's like you're creepy, it ups the creep factor.
Yeah, I don't know how much personality he really has. I mean, this is the thing, is I see him as just being really ineffectual and just a bit of a poser a lot of the time. So it's just another example of how he's just not good at this, and he's spouting these lines that patently don't work. He can't have personality because otherwise he would succeed at something. Whereas he just keeps failing. And we've got Drury liquidating assets to try and get him out, because otherwise they're all doomed. But, Browne's got no money. And we were talking earlier about this appearance that he had all this money and he's going to pay off for this. And this House of Cards has fallen apart. He clearly doesn't have anything at all. It's all a front. Rachael.
Just quickly, is it all a front, or there was some sort of line about not being able to get to it because he's now on the run? Is that why he's been separated from his wealth, perhaps?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a. I wonder how much money he really has.
Right.
That he has got some money, but yes, that he can't get anything at this moment.
Yeah.
Poor forward planning again, Lynn.
Yeah, if he is landed gentry, landed aristocracy, his income comes from his rents, which he can't collect without exposing himself. So I think it might be, that problem, that he's got assets, but he's got very little cash on hand because he buys himself clothing and lavishes gifts on people. And now he doesn't have access to his income. He's really effed.
Briony.
Yeah, I think although obviously there was the added blood spatter, but how quickly everybody from the outfit description, that's definitely George Browne. That's George Browne. Not only is it a really stupid outfit choice, like it's not very inconspicuous, it seems to be his signature outfit. It perhaps has his name embroidered on the back in large letters or something. That's the kind of impression I'm getting.
Like his number in football,
Yeah, it's his football jersey with his name on it. Yeah.
Sarah.
I love that. He just strikes me, perhaps, or at least this could be one way of playing him. That he's one of those people who gets very carried away with himself and the idea of himself. And the idea that he has of himself bears no relation to actually how good he is at doing stuff. So, like at the beginning of the play, he's the lover, and he has all this kind of I must have her, and he to the extent that he actually he's not the one who comes up with the idea for the murder, to be fair, but like. He's plotting with other people because, oh my God, everything is about love and nothing else matters. And then when he appears in Act 2, he's been sort of moved on into the, I am a villain, I am a murderer. And I mean, does he not? I was going to comment on this earlier when we did the scene, but there's a bit in the beginning when he first goes to murder him. And in the stage directions, it says that he casting one side of his cloak under his arm. I mean, is he literally doing this as he comes on, like you're sort of?
It's Bela Lugosi, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He's just fully embodied the villain personality because that's what I'm doing now. That's who I am. And now it seems like he's fully committed to the role of like, I am the tortured. Penitent, dear God, if he was alive again, I would give everything in London for him to be alive again. And it's like he's so full of shit and he's really not good at any of this stuff, but it's like he's in love with the idea of himself as these different personas, and that's really all there is to him, maybe.
Or that when the deed is done and he actually is, that he is truly penitent for a moment, that there's actually something. The posing drops for a bit, and he picks it up again. Because I mean, the thing about the whole story, and this is the great thing about true crime, is they're usually really crap. That none of this has been thought through. People do things in haste. They don't do it properly because it's not fiction, and that's what I quite like about this, because there isn't really a great reason for this murder thing to be happening at all. It's basically Anne Drury suggested it, I think, because it was the easiest way to get Anne on side. Because, like, well, if your husband's dead, then you'll accept this person that you have no interest in because there's nothing else on about. Because, you know, you're not going to persuade her to have an affair otherwise. And it's like, yeah, that's the sort of logic, and it's just rubbish. But that's sort of what real life's like. People do really terrible things for really terrible motivations. Eric?
Yeah, well, I was wondering okay, so how, like, if this had played out the way Drury wanted it, how exactly does she make money out of it? Is it just like sort of the whole palmistry, you pay me kind of thing, and then sort of every time he says, take a drink with, you know, on this and that kind of thing? Or is it something else? Is there like some other element that we've missed? Just because
I think he's just going to pay her. I think he's just going to pay her a lot of money. Or she tells. I mean, that's the thing, is he can be basically blackmailed for the rest of his life. And if he marries Anne, then, you know, assuming that Anne actually does have a fair amount of wealth, and assuming that Browne actually also has wealth, which he may or may not. So, yeah. We're into extra time. We have one more session to go on this, Act 4, where I'm sure all the threads will be pulled together. We've got one more appearance at least of tragedy at the top, and will appear later on. So, final thoughts from the room. How are we feeling about the play so far? Sarah, any final thoughts from you about this play?
I'm still really enjoying it. We'll see if it all goes pear-shaped in the final session. I have no idea, but so far I've really enjoyed it. I actually really liked the sudden, the sudden descent into darkness from something much lighter and more urbane earlier on. I am totally. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I was playing him today, but I'm totally compelled by the character of Beane. I really hope he pulls through. I hope we get to see him again. I don't know if we will, but I to me, he's kind of he is the hero of this piece as of today, because he was such a complete innocent, and I really hope, I'm kind of rooting for him to come through now, for something good to happen for him.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so a thing I really like and a thing I'm really disappointed in. So what I really enjoyed today is the way the story is manipulating our emotions. You know, that sort of edge of your seat. Is he going to get killed? Oh, no, that didn't work out. Oh, we're going to try to kill him. Oh, no. So the suspense and the sentimentality that it brings in with the ordinary characters of Beane and Barnes and Joan and John, just these sort of like sweet, likable, ordinary people, and they get caught up in this crazy mess. So that really manipulates our emotions. And then Anne being so overwrought, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I told this guy that I could be in love with him, because now everything's really messed up and I have all this remorse and the murder's remorse. So that I really appreciated the way the play takes us on this wild emotional journey. The thing that frustrates me, though, is a couple of things that it leaves enacted, and I'm really frustrated by the fact that we don't see Browne's conversion from on the side boyfriend to murderer. You don't see Anne Drury convince him that homicide is the way to get what he wants, and it's like, I really think the play should show us that. And we don't see Anne's conversion from unwilling object of his affection to willing participant in this. It's like, I don't know how to write that, I'm not going to leave it in. And I really feel the absence of those emotional about faces that those characters do.
Well, I think I agree with the first point. The second one about Anne, I mean, it feels like that does seem like a deliberate ambiguity of how involved is she in this and where we're left off. That might be a strength, but I think you're right. There is almost like he goes from 0 to 60 quite quickly in the whole murder side of the plot. But maybe at pace we wouldn't care, or maybe we would. Who knows? Rachael, any final thoughts? Whichever Rachel would
Oh.
like to go in first. Sorry, you weren't here for the session the other day, Rachel. So how you're finding this portion, as it were.
No, I'm enjoying it very much. I've been enjoying how they've been blaming one another and those sorts of things. I find it quite entertaining. I also think it's interesting that it's sort of a requirement of the genre that there's all sorts of guilt, and they feel guilt and remorse because we're supposed to learn a lesson from this play, or the audience at the time was. But what that ends up meaning is that there sort of has to be a certain amount of psychological complexity. You can't have a cartoonish villain if they're then going to be beset with guilt. So I find it interesting that there's sort of the psychology of the characters is it sort of works with the genre in a way that's not bad. Like, anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You know that he has I don't see him as a cardboard. Any of these people as cardboard cutouts. They do have interiority, and they've had a journey. There was a lot of good setup yesterday for where they were, and it laid out his information very neatly, and lots of wiggle room. We've already been discussing how do you play someone like Browne, and actually we've come up with several quite contradictory different answers, which is always a good thing because that means that there's some give to it. Ray, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of stuff that in rehearsals of this play there's many discussions I think you could have for these characters. I don't know. I like the characters. I like the comedy yesterday. I like the tension that it's working with today. I was genuinely horrified or disgusted with when we were in the scene with Beane, that he goes for the Achilles tendon because that's immediately like a reaction, like and then that he's touching why is he touching them with the handkerchief and making it bloody? It just seems very much like
he read it in a book, didn't he? You can tell.
Yeah, or like I don't know, Orlando Furioso or something like that, like a mad scene. It seemed like something like that. Like it's very shocking, but I don't know, train wreck like that. It'll bring the audience. You can't look away from that sort of thing.
Dan, you weren't here the other day. How are you finding? What do you think of the show so far?
I'm really enjoying the play. Probably pretty obviously. I really like. I always enjoy these stories out of real life morality type plays, and I like all of the conventions from this time period, including all of the dumb shows that do add to the text. To me, I think I think having the elements of comedy and then having these metaphorical, meta-theatrical elements just add to the entire experience, because I think the audience is being forced to, I guess, laugh, confront themselves, confront these metaphorical aspects, and also at the same time knowing that this was based on a true story as well, I think only adds to the entire theatrical experience. If I may, since I won't be here tomorrow, comment a little bit on the printing of it. What I particularly like about this text as well is because this is a printer who seems to insert a lot of stage directions into it. And also even printed in black letter, which is generally used for these types of moralities. You see this with, or historical type things. You see this with Art and Faversham, as well as some of the, I can't name a couple of the other, Dr. Faustus is another one. And it seems that the printer has really made an effort to make this, I guess, a text that you can envision seeing happening. You see this with the asides that are constantly pointed out, most of which are actually in the original printing there. So I think that the reading experience of it and all of the elements that we are lucky to have included, like the dumb shows and in such detail, really make this a rich play either to watch or to read.
Yes, people brought up, this moral quality of which actually I hadn't been thinking about it that way at all. I've just been thinking about it, murder thriller thing, and yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable for someone who's just committed their first murder to feel somewhat remorseful afterwards, because the other week he really wasn't planning on doing this kind of thing at all. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. Briony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just love what this play's doing with tone. The way the tone keeps shifting, the really, really playful start that we had, and there's been like hints of that kind of comedy underpinning stuff, but then I like what Sarah said yesterday about tragedy being a proper goth emo kid, and I think today with the dumb shows and all of that laid on thickly, use up all of your old Halloween decorations kind of moments, I've just found it really enjoyable. And considering all the stuff that was given away in the title, let alone the actual play itself, it's still managing to keep you guessing, keep you engaged and feeling that suspense, which is very cleverly done.
Eric, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo what everyone said, but also I realized, like, while Lynn was talking, that the kind of the thing that the delayed sort of, well, not quantification, but like sort of the delayed murder sets up is kind of, you kind of want to see it, but you also don't, which makes you kind of complicit in it, which is even worse. It's like, why would you want to do that to yourself? It's that sort of like, I want to see how this is going to work out, but also just hiding behind the couch or whatever you want to call it. Like sort of, it's very sort of, I don't know. Well, I mean, no one wants to see a murder, but then the fact that, like, Beane gets his, 10 wounds and lives, and then the other guy gets sort of, and Sanders gets murdered completely, like, you start to wonder how much energy Browne actually has for this, because like 10 stab wounds is a lot, and then you've got to actually kill the other person as well.
He is out of breath when he gets to the buttery, so
true.
That's something that people don't tell you, just how much hard work it is to murder someone. I mean, it really is. It's just, I guess what I'm saying is that it's a very brutal play in some ways, but also kind of, it can be played to comedy, like, if you really, really want to. You say who wants to see people getting murdered. I think the television schedules will suggest that actually there's quite the market out there for it. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a play that's moving at a reasonable pace. It's well crafted. There's some beautiful language in it. I think we've already spotted 2 or 3 bits that could be quite easily uplifted out of this and done as almost standalone pieces. The one thought I have is that anybody who is doing the role of Browne, if they start looking for any depths of character, I think they're on a futile exercise, because I think he's all front, no background.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in two minds over it. Yes, he does poeticize a bit. But that might actually be a route into how to perform him. But there actually is in performance. There's something there that he's always putting on this front, or that you just can't help it that way. There's definitely enough to play, and you can definitely build it, because he gives us things. Odd, he's an odd one. It's odd that we're talking so much about him. Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to echo what everyone else has said just so far. I'm really enjoying this play. I think that it's one of those plays where the characters are really well crafted, and there's a lovely balance between male and female characters as well that I like in the narrative. And it's got that sort of seedy, kind of insidious kind of nature to it, about the murder that we're expecting, and then it happens, and it's so graphic on stage, and then everything is like the fallout from this murder that happened, that's supposed to be like real time, real life, kind of brought to life on stage. I thought that's fantastic. It's reminding me of Arden of Faversham, and reminding me of how good Arden was. I'm quite excited to see where it's going and who gets their comeuppance or doesn't.
Yeah. What will be the final outcome of this this crime thriller morality thing? I have. Oh, Eric.
I just remembered something at the last minute, of course. Because Elizabeth mentioned Arden of Famersham. I mean, we've been talking about it throughout, but I just remembered that in Arden of Famersham there is a murder and there is a person who survives as well with the hammer in his head, which, well, I mean, survives for all about, long enough to tell what happens. So that's another parallel you could use with this, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Arden of Famersham, though, the tone of the overwhelming comediness of it, of so much of that text is playing a different game. I think the Two Lamentable Tragedies is perhaps a better parallel in the sense that you've got two murders in that play, which are doing slightly different things, and again you've got, I think, in one of those the one set abroad in Two Lamentable Tragedies, there's a character who just does poetry all the time. He just walks on and just, I'm going to poeticize at you, and I'm just wondering if there's a crossover there, whereas the other story was just bludgeoning and death. It's really grim in a grim way that the grim murders in this one were. Anyway, any additional thoughts before I close the session? No? Well, we will return. There will be one more session to find out whether the play suffers from the curse of the final session or not. We're enjoying it so far. Will we enjoy its thrilling conclusion? All that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Take heed she do not kill herself.